you first hit and then you say the order. You ready? Oh. Okay. So it's 6:07. The meeting of the Business License Commission is called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of Gabrieliano, Tongva, and Gabrieliano Kish peoples. Item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. And I ask Anthony Woolen to lead the pledge.
Will you all join me in standing and face the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Barry?
Here.
Commissioner Cochran?
Here.
Commissioner Eisenberg? Commissioner Hang? Absent today. Commissioner Woolen?
Here.
Vice Chair Ng?
Here.
And Chair Yusupov.
Present.
We have a quorum.
The next item is item number 4, approval of the Business License Commission agenda for Tuesday meeting of September 10, 2024. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There was a change to the BLC resolution for item 7A with the condition number 18 that was added. It was added to our agenda online and also has been made available for our guests today as well.
Okay, noted. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So motion by Commissioner Ng and second by Commissioner Eisenberg. Secretary, may I have a please get a roll call?
Commissioner Barry?
Approved.
Commissioner Cochran?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Woolen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ng? Aye. and Chair Yusuphov.
Aye.
The item is approved.
The next item is approval of the minutes. Approve the minutes of the prior meeting on Tuesday, August 13, 2024. Are there any changes to the minutes of August 13
There are
meeting?
no changes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Woolen, second by Commissioner Berry.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Cockrell?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Woolen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ng?
Aye.
And Chair Yusuphov.
Aye.
And the item's approved.
Next item is public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the West Hollywood Business License Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter of jurisdiction of the commission. This is not the public comment period for any public hearings on the agenda. Public comment for the public hearings will occur at the time of the hearing. There will also be a general public comment later in the meeting. For those who could not be heard at this time, each speaker will have 3 minutes. If you did not register to speak via Zoom with the city staff, you will not be admitted into the Zoom to speak. The cutoff time was 2 p.m. the day of the commission meeting, as indicated in the posted agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we have Queen Gibson.
You may proceed.
Queen Gibson? I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Dear City of West Hollywood City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of Green Queen as they seek to become West Hollywood's first queer owned and operated dispensary. As a longtime advocate for our community, I understand the importance of having spaces that truly reflect and uplift us.
I just want to note that agenda item is coming up later, so this is general public comment period. So if you want to speak on that particular item, you may want to do it later, as we're going to be.
My apologies.
Yeah, no worries. Do we have any other public speakers on the general subjects that are not on the agenda today?
We have no public speakers in-house for general public comment. I know we have a caller on Zoom. I don't know if they're general comment.
If you can please unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you'll have 3 minutes. Phone number with ending 6215. If you wish to speak under public comment, please unmute yourself by pressing *6.
Okay, I do have 6215 down for item 7A.
Okay. So if we don't have any other public comments, then we'll move to our next item, which is public hearing, item number 7A. A variance request to transfer 100% ownership of the cannabis adult use retail number CAU-000011 and cannabis medical use number CMU-000004 business licenses and a modification to relocate the business from 8464 Santa Monica Boulevard to 802 San Vicente Boulevard for the business known as Zen Healing. I will now open the public hearing on item 7A. Secretary, how was this item noticed?
All notices were posted at the city's 3 legally required posting locations and sent to all occupants within a 500-foot radius.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have any disclosures to make? No disclosures. Okay. Is there a staff report?
Hi, good evening. Jessica Benitez, Code Enforcement Supervisor for the City of West Hollywood. Also joining me is Vito Idamitis, Neighborhood and Business Safety Manager, and Mr. Schock from the City Attorney's Office. So the item before you this evening is a variance and modification, a request to transfer the cannabis adult retail and cannabis medical business licenses from Eric Kidney to Tristan Shucraft. And if approved, they wish to relocate the business operations from 8464 Santa Monica Boulevard to 802 San Vicente Boulevard. I want to emphasize that the licenses have been approved before this body. Next, I will provide a summary of the staff report. Zen Healing is a licensed cannabis license holder that has, over the years, obtained the required cannabis business licenses before this commission. This slide shows a timeline from their inception to their current status as an adult and medical dispensary business license holding, operating at 8464 Santa Monica Boulevard for over a decade. On July 27th of this year, Zen Healing submitted a variance request to transfer 100% ownership for the cannabis adult retail number 11 and cannabis medical dispensary number 4 to Mr. Tristan Shucraft. And if approved, the business requests to relocate to 802 San Vicente Boulevard as the current location is no longer viable due to nearby cannabis competition. Additionally, the business will be managed by Green Queen, who is owned and operated by Mr. Andres Regal. Pursuant to the West Hollywood Municipal Code Section 5.70.060, subsection C, it requires the new proposed ownership meet the following criteria, as outlined here on the slideshow. I will go each criteria. The first criteria is that the same standard of business operation will be maintained. The new owner, Tristan Shucraft, will keep the same business plan, which is retail and medical use, and will continue the compassionate program. The owner will retain a management company who brings over 15 years of combined experience to oversee the day-to-day business operation to ensure that the business plan continues. The second criteria, the ownership shall maintain a comparable level of cannabis experience as conveyed in the Licenses May 2018 screening application. The new owner, Mr. Tristan, is an entrepreneur with extensive hospitality experience and owner of the Abbey and the Chapel, which provide alcohol service. And this type of service are regulated similar to cannabis operations. Mr. Shucraft owns Mr., a telemedicine service that offers access to HIV treatments. Additionally, the management team brings a combined 15 years of comparable experience. Mr. Andres, who is in the nightlife and hospitality industry. Jack Watson, who brings 15 years of experience in managing cannabis retail stores and has worked at a local West Hollywood establishment. The third criteria is that the assignment will promote the public interest and maintain the integrity of the city's 2018 cannabis license application, scoring and licensing process. The proposed license assignment is in alignment with the licensing process and our municipal code. The business model will remain the same. As stated previously, Mr. Shucraft is an experienced entrepreneur in the hospitality and telemedicine industry. The fourth finding, or the fourth criteria, is that the findings that supported issuance of the license can still be made. The variance request is consistent with the criteria set in the municipal code. Mr. Shucraft and the management company have not had a business license revoked or denied, and the subject business is not located within a sensitive area. Mr. Tristan Shucraft and the management of Green Queen have successfully passed the required background checks, and there are no grounds for the denial of the business license. With that, we determined staff that the ownership met the requirements to transfer 100% of the cannabis adults and medical dispensary business license. The second request is a modification. On the screen, you see their current location at 8464 Santa Monica Boulevard. This slide is the proposed location at the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and San Vicente Boulevard. This location is surrounded by bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and across the street from the West Hollywood Sheriff's Station. The proposed location is not located within 600 feet of a sensitive area. The applicant has obtained a zone clearance from the Planning Division that confirms that the new location meets the distance requirements as approved by City Council in 2021. On the screen, you will see a red star with the proposed location, which is right at the corner of San Vicente and Santa Monica Boulevard, and the sensitive use is highlighted in yellow to demonstrate that this is not within a sensitive use. The next slide is a site plan. The new proposed location consists of a 900 square foot, 2-story commercial building. As mentioned before, it is located right on the northeast corner of Santa Monica Boulevard in San Vicente. The retail and medical area will occupy the first floor, and the second story, which is the mezzanine, will be solely used as an office space by employees. Odor control, the applicant is proposing to install decking devices throughout the building to mitigate the odor, and the building includes non-opening windows to avoid odor being detected outside the property as required by the municipal code. As part of the business license operating requirements, the business will designate a neighborhood liaison who will respond to operation complaints. The hours of operation will remain the same from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. as allowed by the state and local law. Security guards, 2 security guards will be on site. One will be near adjacent the entrance to conduct age verifications, and the second will conduct hourly neighborhood inspections. All other conditions have been incorporated to this resolution, BLC 24-0005, to promote safe and responsible operation. Additionally, our office contacted the City of Los Angeles, where the management company has a cannabis business license, and they reported that Green Queen is in compliance with the rules and regulations established by the city, meaning City of Los Angeles. As such, we recommend that the Business License Commission approve BLC 24-005 to approve the variance requests and modification. I'd like to point out that the resolution, as Commission Secretary indicated, we added resolution number 18 to include that they need to be in continual operations as required by law. This concludes my presentation, and we are available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any commissioner have any questions to staff at this time? Commissioner Eisenberg?
I just want to reconfirm the location and the boundary from the school area. I remember a couple of years ago, I believe it was Flame Saddles, which is a block from this location. There was some controversy, I think, raised by me, that it was within.
Can I ask you to speak into the mic, please?
Oh, I thought I was. I just want to reconfirm that the location is definitely out of the limit that we set for being near schools.
Yes, our planning division confirms, and we double check, actually we triple check that indeed the proposed location is not within the sensitive use.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woolen, sorry.
Yeah, so I have a question. There was a condition that was added, number 18. Can we get a little bit of background on why that was added and where that came from, what that's all about?
This condition is typically added to all business license certificates to make sure that all the cannabis are in continual operation. For example, if they are to close, they need to notify us if they're closing due to construction, and that needs to be reviewed by the cannabis team.
Okay, so why wasn't it there before?
Well, we actually added a condition that the applicant must abide by Chapter 5.70, and that encompasses everything. So we want to make sure that that particular condition, as in our code, is specifically reflected in the resolution.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Cochran?
Thank you, Chair. I had a question for Attorney Langer. Your hair looks so great, cut short. I love it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if you'll be able to answer all these because this is very West Hollywood specific, so maybe code enforcement could help explain. But in the past, when this commission has voted on the transfer of ownership for marijuana or cannabis licenses, we've only been allowed to, at max, transfer 85% of ownership. And I'm not saying I'm against the transfer of 100% of ownership, but I'm curious if there was a code change or what's the framework for that?
Hi, very good question, Commissioner Cochran. I'll answer that question. So the reason why it is because the previous businesses that came before this commission were in operation less than 2 years. So there is a cap for that. They could only transfer up to 85 years. After they're being in continual operation for 2 years, they can then transfer 100%.
I see. I see. Thank you so much. Okay, so that won't affect other businesses in the future then, or won't set any sort of precedent because there's a 2-year rule. That's okay. Sorry, I'm just speaking out loud now. Thank you.
Commissioner Eng?
That is correct. That's what the code allows. And also, we've had another business that actually also transferred. They went in phases, in tiers. They initially did 85%, and after the 2 years of continuing operation, they came back and transferred the remaining 15%.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Eng?
Thank you, Chair. Supervisor Benitez, or I guess Manager Adamitis, I know the state does not differentiate between adult use and medical, and I'm asking why we still do.
You know what? These are the licenses that were approved back in 2018. I do not have the background, and I don't know if our city attorney has that background, but I will defer to Mr. Vito.
We'll have to look into that for background.
Anyone else? I have a quick question. At the current location on Santa Monica Boulevard, were there any complaints about the existing business from the public?
We received, and I'll ask Commission Secretary, the last time I checked, we had received 7 public comments. One was in opposition regarding the location at 802 San Vicente, stating that they didn't have sufficient parking. Did we receive any additional? Those were the public comments that we received.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Both the applicants are present, the current business owner, the applicant, and I have someone on the line. If they could come forward. Oh.
Okay, so the applicant, please provide your presentation. You will be given 5 minutes.
Great, thank you, Commission, and thank you, Jessica, for that really informative presentation. To answer your question, the state does still differentiate between medical and rec, but just kind of for taxes. If you get a medical card and you bring that into the store and we upload that into the system, then you can save like 15% or so on taxes. So, you know, a little trick there. But this is Eric, the existing owner of Zen, and this is Andres Regal, applicant, and my co-founder and Green Queen. I'm the other founder. As Jessica noted, there's 2 items, the transfer of ownership to Tristan and then the relocation. And she did a really good job of explaining Tristan's background and his qualifications. He alone would be well more than capable to manage this business. He bought the Abbey and Chapel, heavily regulated business, to protect that for queer space and to preserve it. He's run Mister, a telehealth company, also pretty regulated, to expand the access of PrEP drugs, and owns a number of other clubs and hotels. So that's a little bit about his qualifications, but really I'm here to mostly talk about the vision for this location, which is wrapped up in Green Queen. Green Queen's mission is really to create a community serving model for cannabis retail, kind of like what it used to be, but not as much what it's been lately. Our mission, to just read it, is to build community and drive social impact through cannabis, rooted in the legacy of queer activism from the HIV and AIDS crisis, because the first medical dispensaries in the state were in the Castro to serve those suffering from HIV and AIDS, and we want to reflect that, especially through the Compassionate Care Program. We've lived that mission in downtown.
We've run our location in downtown for over 2 years now. We got that through a rare method of getting the city council to agree that downtown needed another cannabis license. The neighborhood council agreed unanimously, and then recently re-upped us during our relicensing unanimously to give a little bit of testament. In that time, we've thrown trans fashion shows, nothing to do with cannabis. We've had monthly queer mercados, queer markets for makers and artisans, not a cannabis thing at all. We've had the STD truck out there. We've had pet adoption. We really go above and beyond to try to make this a community-centric model. That's something you're going to hear throughout the rest of the presentation. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to donate back to the community. We proudly state that we're queer all year. Just a few weeks ago, we were at the DTLA Proud Festival. The president is here and will speak later, I imagine, and presented our big $20,000 check to them. That's what we could do this year, and we hope that next year we can do a much bigger check. That's kind of our whole thing, is demonstrating to the community how we can make this a really good relationship. And also the brands. We procure every LGBT-owned brand that we can get our hands on, which you'd think like, sure, why not? But most dispensaries sell, like slotting fees at a grocery store, sell to the highest bidder who can be on their shelves. But any LGBT brand, we commit to having them. And we have a lot of brands where we're one of their only contracts, but the consumers can find them, they can find their consumers, and it can help diversify the industry. And you'll hear from plenty more people. There were actually like 36 public comments, and all but 2 of them were very supportive and very authentic. You'll read personal experiences. And we're going to bring this all to Green Queen. We're going to bring the brand thing, which we're really excited about. We're going to be a place of discovery for folks looking for those products. We're going to bring events. Andres' background is in creating community. He's best known for Avita. He's best known for Summer Tramp, Mr. Black, and now he does Simon Says as a monthly party, creating these really unique community spaces, which is exactly what we're going to try to do here and what we've been doing, as I've mentioned. And it's going to be nice looking. We paid in downtown at our expense, like 30 grand expense, for a mural on the entire side of our building in the alley. And it was a Patrick Church mural. He's a notable, there's some Patrick Church apparel that I saw someone wearing here earlier, and he's a notable artist that really needs to be celebrated in our community. And we want to paint the entire front of it. We still have to go for a mural permit, I'm well aware of that, but it's going to be pretty cool. And we've won 2 Clio Awards for our interior design, including being recognized in the New York Times for our interior design. So it's going to be a really good looking store. To wrap it up, the relocation, I'd also note, really helps the cannabis industry. It gets this one license out of the 6 licenses in a half-mile stretch on Santa Monica Boulevard, giving more choices to consumers. So that's our business model, connecting authentically to the community. I really welcome your questions, and I look forward to your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does any commissioner have any questions to the applicant at this time?
Yeah, I just had one. I mean, it's great to see that queer businesses still want to come to West Hollywood and be here. Question is regarding the hourly neighborhood wandering of the security guard that's supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. Do you do that in downtown? Is this going to be something new? Do you have a plan for that? Because I know some of the other cannabis businesses in West Hollywood have kind of struggled where they'll have a security person who's at the door and then one inside, but it's not as consistent as far as being part of that neighborhood and being outside so people feel safe, so our neighbors feel heard, that if there's a noise issue that they're being taken care of, or if somebody's smoking in front of their house that they're asking them to move or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely, great question. Yeah, we definitely have a plan for it. It's in the security plan. We're just adopting Zen's plan. I mean, Zen has run a good operation and they were there for 20 years, so they really fine-tuned things. It's just the market changed around them, especially when Off the Charts opened just 3 doors down and gutted their business. So that's absolutely something. It's not something we've had to do in downtown because that's not a condition in Los Angeles, and it's truthfully something that we just had never thought of because it's something that I think is unique to West Hollywood to ask. But I love the community-centric component of it and getting out into the community and doing that sort of thing. So we definitely have a plan for it. I specified in decent details in the security plan. and but it's basically just do what Zen continues to do.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? I'll start with Commissioner Barry.
Hi, yes. Given the location, I know you spoke a little bit about events. Could you just talk to us a little bit about what you feel the impact will be on the nightlife and the other businesses in the area?
Yeah, well, we're closed at 10, so I'll just make sure that that's clearly known across everyone. We have to be, and you heard their hours earlier, but it's worth noting because there's going to be less overlap than people think. When folks here were moving to this location, they're like, wow, that's going to be great because of the nightlife. And as my business partner reminds me, people don't show up till 11. But I mean, I think it's going to be hugely positive. In our downtown location, we planted trees. We, at our expense, lit the alley with like cafe lights. I already told you about the mural. We installed new bike corrals. We're really into like doing things outside of the store as well as in it, and bringing that mural onto that street corner, I think is going to be really an impactful statement that folks are going to want to take pictures of, take pictures in front of, that's going to catch eyes and really kind of help liven up that corner a little bit, especially in contrast to the sheriff's department that's across from it, which we of course appreciate, but could use some livening. And we have security cameras all over as is required, so that will help a little bit with security as well.
All right. Any other questions? Commissioner Eisenberg?
As you mentioned earlier, we did have a letter about the parking. Can you just, I don't know if there's going to be a drop-off area, or can you just talk a little bit about how that's going to be handled?
Yeah, so this, a little bit of history about this place. It was, before it was the Mr. Kind of office, it was Rounderbum, before that American Apparel, and I know a lot of folks probably remember what was before that, but I wasn't around. Getting a nod from, yeah, probably. It's been retail for a really long time, and we aren't seeking to do anything to change its use, or we're not even applying for a building permit. We're going to make it look really nice inside, but like with reskinning and basic stuff like that. So it has 2 parking spots that it's had and that's had for a long time. We plan on striping them better and getting better notice. The employees will never be allowed to park in them. They're not allowed to park in the downtown either. We get spots for them like a block away that they can park in. So it'll be dedicated to consumers. And surprisingly, back in the day, you would think 2 spots for a cannabis dispensary, that doesn't sound like enough, but it's not really the cannabis dispensary industry of 2018. It's a lot more competitive, and 2 spots is probably enough. Our 4 spots in downtown for a much bigger dispensary, a much higher volume than I could hope for here, because we have a pretty good catch area. Those 4 spots are like mostly empty most of the time. So we will do, we also will have, so we'll have those 2 spots, and we're gonna market them really well. That's kind of the answer.
I believe there's valet down the street too, across the street.
Yeah, and like I said about the employees, of course, they're not gonna park there.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ng?
Yeah, I think I was going to address delivery, but I'm guessing those 2 spots will handle delivery, correct?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I said it was the parking actually didn't concern me as much as the delivery aspect.
Oh, you mean like shipments?
Well, no, aren't you asking for delivery license within this also, or no, you're not?
It comes with a delivery license, but I have been a little uncertain because state law usually allows retailers to deliver anywhere in California. So, and that's what we see now is like retailers delivering from outside. But that's not a robust part of our business model. I mean, we're retailers. We don't do delivery in downtown. We've thought about a pilot program to do delivery in downtown. But it's not really a big part of our proposal because we haven't done it before, and it's not really kind of our main thing. We're really experiential. We have in our downtown store it's a marketplace model, so you can go up and the products are live on the shelves, and you can pick them up and you can look at them and you can feel them and you can read about them. We have informational displays kind of all over. So it's really a sense of like discovery, and that's what we try to promote. And that helps with the LGBT brands. We have a whole LGBT brand corner. We put them in downtown. It's under a big 5-foot disco ball. And there's going to be a big 5-foot disco ball in this location too, right there for everyone to see. And then we'll have a queer corner there as well, highlighting these brands.
Okay, can I ask how many employees you'll have at this store?
It varies on the shift. The lowest end would be 2 or 3, and on the upper end, like 4 or 5. Yeah, that's Jack Watson, who was noted in Jessica's presentation, as our COO. He used to work at Calma, which is another West Hollywood dispenser, and he's been effectively managing our Green Queen location since its opening.
Are you already staffed for this location?
Well, we've extended employment letters, opportunity to all the current staff, and we really hope a lot of them join, and it sounds like most of them are coming along, so we are staffed. We also have a lot of, honestly, we have a surprising wait list of people that want to work at our downtown location, and I think it's probably because it's a really nice place. We have on Google a 4.9, and there's like 800 reviews. It's not like there's no reviews. And there's a lot of 5-star, a couple 1-star, nothing in between. And if you read those, you would hear people talking about how relieved they feel in the space, how comfortable they feel navigating it and asking questions. Maybe I got off track there,
Sorry.
but you get an entrepreneur talking about their thing and they can get a little down a track.
In terms of your compassion program, are there going to be any local charities or groups that will be included? I don't actually, the $20,000 donation to the downtown LA organization sounds great. I just don't know what it does, so if you could actually speak about that would be great.
Yeah. Well, in downtown, their main project is the DTLA Proud Community Center, which Oliver might speak to. Andres is a founding board member also of DTLA Proud, so we have a lot of connection there. And I haven't really gone into our background, but it's you can imagine LGBT activism through and through. But the question that I lost track of.
Sorry, I asked if there was any local.
What's our involvement going to be through the Compassionate Care Program here? We definitely want to, as I kind of noted, connect to the HIV and AIDS community. That's what that was the birthplace of the modern cannabis medical movement, and it's something that we really want to connect to very deeply. We're pretty proud of our downtown location. We offer a trans discount. We offer discounts to various communities to try to make the pricing a little bit easier with them, and we want to just double down on that. That's been really successful for everyone involved. Everyone can be included, and we want to double down on that here with the Compassionate Care Program, and especially identifying the HIV and AIDS community to support with free product or heavily discounted product.
What's the amount of the discount in general?
Sorry?
What's the amount of the discount in general, percentage?
The Compassionate Care Program is actually the City of West Hollywood program, as far as I understand, which asks for 25% off if you can show like a SNAP card or other form of signifying low-income status.
Okay, and then I hope this is my last question, but what track and trace system are you using, and what's your educational program for your employees?
You asked track and trace program?
I'm just curious what track and trace you're using, and then beyond that, is there education for your employees beyond just track and trace?
Yeah, so Track and Trace is the name of the statewide program. That Metric is the name of the company that kind of manages. Sorry? Well, Metric's kind of the one that everything goes through, and then the point of sale systems are usually the interface that interact with Metric and do the Track and Trace program. So we use Jane Point of Sale. They're considered industry leading point of sale system. They're pretty good. So that was kind of that question. And then your second question?
No, I was asking what education you provide for your employees beyond track and trace.
Jack, do you want to answer
If you
that?
do.
You can come up here. So Jack is, as I mentioned, our COO, and he started as a bud tender, manager, general manager, and is now our COO. So he can speak extensively to their education program.
We actually have any new brand that comes into the store, they have to come in and introduce their brand to our employees. They have to tell that way that our employees can better alliterate to our customers what it is that they're buying, so they're not just out pushing weed. I come from a very medical-based background. I have a brother who was a brain trauma patient 12 years ago, and he had a lot of very, very impressive benefits from using cannabis outside of using medicinal products. So I thoroughly push my employees to learn the medicinal properties of cannabis, not just the idea of it making somebody high. But yeah, we do require any new brand that comes into the store to introduce their brand and to provide all educational material to our employees.
Okay, sorry. And then,
And I would add too that he missed one of the biggest features that we have is that all of our locations has, because you asked kind of about inventory control as well, is that all of our locations have a dedicated inventory manager. So someone whose job is just to see how much do we have on the floor, where is it at, does the intaking. It's actually quite labor intensive to intake all the product, and sticker everything individually. You have to like get it all. So we have someone dedicated to that in each store, which is makes us also better at being able to adapt to what the consumers want and do better pricing. And there's a lot of good business reasons to have an inventory manager as well, but certainly for compliance, it's grade A.
okay, then again, finally, this hopes to be the final question. I'm sorry, from Zen? No.
Eric.
Eric from Zen, are you still pursuing a lounge?
We are still trying to.
So will you be a part of Green Queen and this, or will you completely be separate here?
Yeah, this would be separate.
Hi, excuse me, Eric, can you please approach the podium where the microphone is?
Say it in the microphone.
So we can hear you.
Oh, what was that? One more time, I'm sorry.
I just
It would
asked
be
if you were
separate, I'm sorry.
Still
Did you-
pursuing the
yeah.
lounge, you're saying yes, but you will be completely separate entities?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have a question regarding the odor control. You'll be installing Daikin devices. Is that a new air conditioning system, or is that something different?
It's not new. It's the one that's existing, but it's a pretty serious HVAC system. All the windows are locked and sealed, can't open them. The door has a automatic closey thing, and the HVAC system has a pretty intense filter that I actually got into, because that was a big question of Jessica's, and really dug into. I can't even remember the name because it was quite long and quite complex, but it's considered industry leading, and all ventilation goes out through that filter.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, Commission?
I just have a
Commissioner
clarifying
Bowman.
question. If I heard you correctly, you're looking to connect more with the HIV/AIDS community and the trans community, or you currently do work with both?
We currently work with the trans community especially. I mean, you'll hear a little bit of that. We don't do a lot with the HIV/AIDS community. That was in downtown. Of course, there are plenty of folks there who that's a community for them, but it hasn't been as much of our focus. But with West Hollywood, we really want to make that kind of a central feature of our community engagement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, we actually have 14 comments, public speakers. I don't know if you want to keep the 3-minute maximum or if you want to do 2 minutes.
2 minutes, let's do 2 minutes.
First, we have Michael O'Farah. Please state your name and residence, and that's for all the rest of our public speakers as well.
I'm Michael Alfera, and I'm a resident of West Hollywood. Good evening, Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, Commissioners. I am a Southern California resident of 20 years. I'm a business litigation attorney, and I'm also a medical cannabis consumer, and I'm here to express my support of the transfer of this license. I am familiar with Green Queen because I have shopped at the downtown Los Angeles location. I can attest that the business is a very neatly run business with an attractive and well-designed storefront. That is not an easy task to accomplish in the historic core neighborhood of DTLA. And so I'm excited to see the business bring that same standard of excellence to this very prominent and important West Hollywood location. And so in that sense, I think the business very easily satisfies the variance requirements about the business quality. I'm also familiar with Green Queen because I know Andres Regal personally, one of the founders and co-owners, as you heard. I cannot think of anyone better to own and operate a queer business in this queer, beautiful city of ours. I've known Andres for years and have experienced firsthand his contributions to the queer community in and around Los Angeles. You heard about his association with DTLA Proud, longtime association, and the $20,000 donation that was recently made. Andres and Green Queen demonstrate why it's so important to ensure that our city has queer representation at all levels, including business ownership. Authentic queer representation matters, and that's why I support this transfer, and I encourage the Commission to approve the transfer as recommended. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Aurora Jackson.
Good evening, members of the West Hollywood Business License Commission. My name is Aurora Sexton, and thank you for allowing me this time to speak. I'm a local artist, performer, community leader, West Hollywood resident, and today I'm here on behalf of my dear friend, Green Queen co-founder Andres Regal. When I moved here 6 years ago, Mr. Regal was one of the first people to welcome me with open arms and provide me with work opportunities, as he has for so many. With a hyper-focus on the wellness and betterment of the LGBTQIA community, Mr. Regal has utilized Green Queen to donate $20,000 to nonprofits like DTLA Proud and provide employment for the most marginalized among us, specifically members of the trans community. Walking through our neighborhood, it's hard to ignore the many empty businesses and shuttered buildings dotting our street. It is imperative to not only fill those spaces with respectable, well-run businesses that plan to put down roots for the long term, but also revitalize the neighborhood, are aesthetically pleasing, provide jobs for local residents, and give back to the communities they serve. I believe with Mr. Regal's vision and business model combined with local business owner and CEO Tristan Shucraft's business acumen and leadership, Green Queen will serve as a safe, supportive, and prosperous member of our community that will be enjoyed for years to come. Thank you so much for your time and consideration, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Could
Next,
you
we
announce
have.
the next speaker and then the following after that so they can prepare?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
The speaker and then the next person, so the next person can prepare as well.
Khaled Odin, and then next we'll have Max Lichman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Khaled Sebastian O'Day, and I am a celebrity makeup artist here, resident in West Hollywood. And I'm also here to support Andres Regal. I want to start out by saying thank you for taking the time to listen and hear from people that live right here in West Hollywood. I'm proud to say that I'm celebrating my 15th year as a resident in West Hollywood, coming to you from New York City, and I love it. I first learned about Green Queen about 2 years ago due to their support for the queer community through charity and events. I later discovered that Green Queen is a storefront cannabis store in downtown LA that supports queer artists, queer rights, and queer brands. I've also seen them transform a once lifeless lot into a vibrant, welcoming space that has made the commute downtown worthwhile for me, both to support queer brands and to experience a positive environment. As a queer person, and the reason I moved to West Hollywood, I take pride in engaging in efforts that benefit my neighborhood and supporting local businesses and contribute selflessly and do positive acts to the LGBTQ+ community. The intersection of San Vicente and Santa Monica is the heart of West Hollywood, and I am confident that Green Queen will not only respect that space, but also enhance the corner, making a meaningful impact in a community and revitalize the spirit of West Hollywood and make the pulse of the heart of West Hollywood beat stronger. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you.
Max Lichman, followed by Ashley Belzil.
Good evening. My name is Max Lichman. Thank you all for the time this evening. I have been a worker in the cannabis industry for 14 years in multiple states, and I currently work with 187 different shops throughout the city of LA, and I can say without a doubt that Green Queen provides one of the safest and most accepting experiences you can find in a shop here, especially considering their current location in DTLA, an area that is littered with illicit and unsafe shops. Not only do they provide safe places for people to get their medication, but they also do provide a lot of opportunity for the queer community down there to express themselves beyond the cannabis market. As they mentioned earlier in their presentation, their Mercado was a monthly gathering where, yes, people could go into their shop and buy cannabis, but other people had the opportunity to share and sell their art, baked goods, and other types of goods that they're making at home in a place where they otherwise would not be able to. They would absolutely provide a benefit to the area they're in, especially considering they would be, I believe from my recollection, one of the only queer-owned shops in cannabis in the city of West Hollywood, and I really cannot imagine a place more deserving of their work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ashley Belzo, followed by Paul Nichols.
Hi, my name is Ashley Belzo. I'm a first timer speaking at anything like this, so bear with me. I'm a queer business owner and event producer who has been creating events for both the queer and cannabis communities. I believe having a queer-owned dispensary in West Hollywood is not only important for the community, but someone like me and small queer entrepreneurs that are looking to break into the industry. Coming from someone who has worked and been engulfed deeply in the cannabis industry for almost a decade, I've seen how hard it is for brands to get into these retails, especially the little guys. There's a lot of stuff going around about how retails don't pay their bills for the small guys. So why, are these small businesses even starting out? Because they can't pay their bills because, the retailers are going off and just, giving money to like the bigger brand. So, a dispensary like Green Queen, who is putting, small queer businesses on a pedestal and giving them a platform when a lot of these dispensaries will probably put them at the bottom of the shelf and not pay them, is a big deal. They even support local queer artists by showcasing their art in the store. So I really hope the city of West Hollywood sees the value in supporting this, where we can continue building a vibrant, inclusive community.
Thank you.
Paul Nichols, followed by Queen Gibson.
Hello, commissioners. Nice to see you again. My name is Paul Nichols. I've lived and worked in West Hollywood for over 20 years. I'm also a partner at Beaches Tropicana, formerly known as Heart WeHo, right across the street. If there's one thing I've learned in the city over 20 years is there's nothing better than a good neighbor and nothing worse than a bad one. And I can definitely attest that this team behind Green Queen will be great neighbors. I personally know all of them. I've known them all for quite some time. I can speak to their integrity. I'm also going to steal Council Members Eng's lines once again and say that they're all people that don't just work, in our community, but they're very much a part of it and very active in it, which I think is very important, especially to the Rainbow District in WeHo. Andres, I'm personal friends with. Amongst other things, one thing I take great joy in is giving Andres a hard time. And I remember when he had started his project, and I was like, girl, marijuana now? And he looked at me, he said, Paul, he goes, you have to understand, it's just not about the marijuana, it's also very much about the mission. And I think that really sums up who he is and who this team is and what they're trying to do here. We see a lot of dispensaries, we see all these kinds of businesses. They're very much something that's from the community, about the community, and for the community. And I couldn't think of a better addition to our four corners than having Green Queen as our neighbor. So I hope you approve everything. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Queen Gibson, followed by Carter Daniel.
Also, we can ask the public speakers to come forward so that way we can run the speakers much easier or quicker.
Good evening. My name is Queen Shannon. I'm a representative for Unique Women's Coalition, a Black trans-led organization, and also a resident for West Hollywood. Dear West Hollywood City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak for Green Queen as they seek to become West Hollywood's first queer-operated and owned dispensary. As a longtime advocate for our community, I understand the importance of having spaces that truly reflect and uplift us. Green Queen is more than a business. It's a community hub, hosting events like Trans Fashion Week, curated by our sibling Mars Wright, which has directly benefited Unique Women's Coalition. On a personal note, I've been diagnosed with chronic pain for over 10 years, and my hectic schedule often demands my full presence and energy. Unlike traditional pain medication that can leave me in a daze, edibles have allowed me to manage my pain while staying alert and active, keeping me fully engaged in my work and life. Green Queen's commitment to inclusivity, offering support to trans individuals and queer artisans, aligns perfectly with the values that West Hollywood, a true sanctuary for our community, and this effort has directly supported the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carter Daniel, followed by Ricardo Sebastian.
Hey, y'all. So I am Carter Daniel. I am a party promoter and a member of West Hollywood. I've lived here for 10 years, and I've had the pleasure of working directly with Andres Regal for the last 3 years. And I can say that I have a few words to describe him. He's smart, he's highly visible, he's honest, he's fair, and above all, he's generous. And I can say many of the other people I've worked with in West Hollywood do not necessarily share that exact same type of employment style or just people skills. And it's a pleasure to work with him in the spaces that I have, whether it be at a party or a charity event. And I can say that being a member of the West Hollywood community and that the local businesses, they do affect the vibe and also the aesthetic of our neighborhood. And I can't think of a better look or a better resident to put into that space than Andres Regal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricardo Sebastian, followed by Joshua Miller.
Good evening. My name is Ricardo Sebastian, and I'm a resident of downtown Los Angeles. For transparency, I'll also share that I've done business with the city of West Hollywood via Out Loud Music Festival at WeHo Pride, where I served as the executive director until July 2024. I'm here to advocate for the transfer of this license because I have personal experience witnessing the positive impact that Green Queen has had on my community. I also volunteer on the Resident Association Board in downtown Los Angeles, where we're currently working to revitalize our community, and we constantly reference Green Queen as an example and a standard for a business that has taken a vacant commercial space and turned it into not only a successful business, but a community space. I don't really consume cannabis as much anymore, but when I do, I shop at Green Queen. I also love to shop the space because they support independent queer artists through their retail space, offering apparel, accessories, home goods, and as many of my community peers have mentioned, Green Queen advocates for this community through community events, and also giving back to the community financially. I personally witnessed the $20,000 donation to Detail A Proud. It was a beautiful and very special moment for our community. Those funds are intended to expand a community center, to continue organizing and making safe spaces for our community downtown. And even though it's a bit of a trek to the west side, I very much look forward to shopping Green Queen West Hollywood should you approve this license transfer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joshua Miller, followed by Oliver Alpuche. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
Hello, my name is Joshua Miller, also known as Ray Latre. I'm a drag performer here in West Hollywood. And I've been working and living in West Hollywood since 2004. And since 2004, we've seen a lot of brands that have tried to use this location and nothing really stuck. And as a resident of West Hollywood, I felt compelled to be here and speak for Green Queen, not only because I'm a supporter of cannabis, but because the individuals and companies involved are huge inspirations of mine. Tristan has created a business for the community for HIV prevention. Also, Tristan personally, I know Tristan personally, and he's not only an outstanding businessman, but an incredible human being that has the best intentions for the gay community overall. Andres Regal, the owner of Green Queen, has created a safe space for queer people all over Los Angeles and California. Andres is not here just for the business aspect, but he's here for our community. Just this year, Green Queen donated $20,000 to DTLA Proud, an event downtown LA where the current Green Queen location resides. And I say this because Green Queen also gives back. This location is prime for the LGBT community, and what better location to have the LGBT-owned brand of Green Queen in the #1 LGBT city in the world, I think. Also, sidebar, Andres is no stranger to glamour, and I would like to be very excited to see what he does with this space. Being a drag queen, I care how things look. Again, my name is Joshua Miller, and I'm in favor for Green Queen, and I'm hoping to see a lot more sativa divas out there.
Thank you.
Oliver Alpuche, followed by Jacob Shaw.
Hello. Hi, I'm Oliver Alpuche. I'm the founder and executive director of DTLA Proud. I know there's been a lot of talk about the wonderful donation that happened, but Green Queen's support of DTLA Proud started from the beginning. And with, as a resident of DTLA, living 3 blocks away from the location, the impact that it has on the neighborhood is profound. The streets actually become cleaner. Yes, it is a cannabis brand, but the way that it is run is more of a luxury boutique that actually impacts the neighborhood in a positive way. So just from that location, but then they also support us as a nonprofit. Andreas was a founder of DTLA Proud 10 years ago and saw the work that the community needed. 2 years ago, we opened up a community center. And I know that you asked, like, what does this organization do for the community? But with the support from the beginning, we opened the community center that supports supports the community through an art gallery, a co-working space, and a permanent 365-day queer marketplace. And what this does is we focus on accessibility and representation so that our community could thrive. And that is what I see Green Queen is going to bring to the city of West Hollywood, because they've already brought it to downtown. So I support this efforts, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob Shaw, followed by Mars Wright.
Hello, Jacob Shaw, owner of Beaches WeHo, SoCal Payroll, and now Beaches Tropicana. So I've got 3 businesses in that one little block right there in West Hollywood. So the neighborhood is very, very important to me. And I think it's important to note that the character and the influence of the people that we have coming in to do businesses is critical to the success of the entire city. And I'm thrilled that Andres and Taylor are coming to the city, or potentially coming to the city, because it's really going to add to the community. It's going to really add to the synergy of the businesses in West Hollywood, because right now there's a lot of fragmentation, and they're pleasures to work with. I've worked with both of them for many years, explored doing business with them as well, and would be happy to do so in the future. So you couldn't ask for a better person to be on that corner, and you couldn't ask for a better group of people that genuinely love the community and are involved in the community. They host events. They were essential in us having Katy Perry at our location, which brought a huge boom to the city. And we're just hoping that we can do more and more of that. And we look forward to having them as our neighbor right across the street. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mars Wright, followed by Matthew Cameron.
Hi, my name is Mars Wright. I've been in LA for 7 years. I'm a trans man, artist, fashion designer. I have some trans joy murals throughout the city, and my art has been featured in the Trans Empowerment Center, which is funded by the AIDS Health Foundation. Green Queen has truly supported the trans community in ways that have deeply changed mine and the life of many local trans people. They've funded community center events that showcase trans artists and give us a platform. The Queer Teak features local queer artists just like me, and I've even had 2 runway shows with Green Queen that all center trans designers. We've had over 250 people attend, and it just created if you guys were there, it created such a beautiful, empowering space for trans people. It's so important for trans people to specifically specifically know that they are included and welcome in the LGBT community, and Green Queen does that 100%. They reached out to me as a trans local artist to say, how can we help you? How can we support you? I have never had that happen in all of the years that I've been an artist in the city, except for by Green Queen. Green Queen always remembers us, and they've specifically donated to us, as well as offering their 25% discount to the trans community all the time, round the clock, whenever you want. And they don't ask you invasive questions to get it either. It's always welcome and safe when you do. So I'd just like to end. I'm wearing a shirt that says, "Seeing queer people thrive saved my life." It's a shirt that's at Green Queen, and I truly believe that when people see queer people thrive, it'll save a life, and Green Queen's legacy will encourage the lives of so many other queer artists and trans artists, and I know they will do something so beautiful with the West Hollywood location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew Cameron.
Hello, good afternoon, council members. My name is Matthew Cameron, also known as Scarlet Bobo, and I am a resident and drag entertainer in this gorgeous queer city of West Hollywood. I am also a medical cannabis user, and I'm here to show my voice and support for Tristan, Andreas, and Green Queen. Originally from Canada, both these businessmen have been a positive part of my career and experience in nightlife in West Hollywood and welcomed me with open arms. I see them making an even bigger impact with this new business adventure. Currently, West Hollywood does not have a queer-owned dispensary, and it's time that we have one with Green Queen, a business that will add flair, dedication, love into the queer community. Not only will this add to the community's energy, but this will also add to the glamour of West Hollywood. Again, I'm Scarlet Bobo, and I support this transfer of ownership and relocation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know we have one speaker online, Love Bailey.
Caller ending in, 6215, please unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you have 2 minutes. We can
Hi,
hear
my
you.
name is Love Bailey. I'm a fierce artist. Worked with many celebrities and brands all over, from Warner Brothers to Lady Gaga. I'm also a fierce activist for the trans community. I'm out here in Transmecula, fighting for basic human rights for the trans community. I'm also the community leader at the LGBTQ Center in Los Angeles. And I've been working with Andreas side by side for 14 years now. And I only feel safe at his locations. Unfortunately, even in the gay community, there is a lot of misogyny that happens towards the trans community. And there are a lot of locations that I just don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable going to. And Andreas goes above and beyond tirelessly to make sure that we are safe, we are represented, but we are also celebrated. Every single party that Andreas has thrown or any single location that he's involved with is not only diverse, but it is loving, it is warm, it is a family, it is my chosen family. And that's why I'm in support of Green Queen. I think it would be a fabulous addition to the West Hollywood street, and I know that the community needs something like this. So thank you.
Thank you. We also had a request from Lex Corwin. She is supposed to be online. I just want to make sure she's not here. Okay, that's the end of our public speakers.
Thank you. Applicant, do you wish to make any further statement or before the public comment? All right. Do any commissioners have any further questions before the public comment portion of the hearing is closed? No? Then the public hearing portion of the hearing is closed. And I'll bring matter back to the commission for discussion and deliberation. Do you want to start, Commissioner Woolen?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who showed up tonight. Being involved civically is so important. Your voices matter. Every comment that we hear helps us to make our decision on what the right thing to do for West Hollywood is. And it's debate night, and you still came. So thank you guys, everybody, for coming and for speaking. That really means a lot. A few of the comments that really stuck out to me were, two of our West Hollywood icons, Paul and Jacob, saying that we're excited to have a neighbor like Green Queen come. That definitely says something. Ashley, speaking for your first time, that's amazing. Andres, obviously you have created such a strong community. To get people to show up at a meeting like this and speak on your behalf is not an easy task, and just wanted to acknowledge you for that. Unique Women's Coalition with Queen Gibson, amazing group, and for you to be here, that's awesome. I've gone to a lot of your annual white parties. Ricardo, when you mentioned that you're part of another group that's trying to revitalize downtown LA, and you bring up Green Queen as part of that core element of that was great for me to hear. Oliver showing it from DTLA Proud, and most importantly and last is Mars. Like, you are a testament of what Green Queen, that they're able to walk the walk. They say they do things for these communities and for trans people, and being here and speaking really shows that Green Queen is able to walk the walk. The staff has done their research. They've done everything that they need to do in the background to say that yes, this can be transferred. I'm very excited to have this business come to West Hollywood and inclined to vote yes to approve the staff's recommendation.
Vice Chair Ng.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll start with a few things. First off, for those people who are tracking the cannabis industry, I think most of us know that there was a situation in which an operator said that he purposefully bought from mom and pops and then didn't pay them. So that's an operator, yeah, that I won't go to anymore. And so your saying that was deeply impressive. I'm glad to hear that, and glad that the opportunity for these mom and pops exist to get to market or to be on a shelf. So I think that's really resonant. Also, someone else mentioned that you guys pay your bills on time. And again, for those tracking in the industry, know that that's not common either. So props to you for that. The Compassion Program, I'm going to ask that you do focus locally when you move into that. And then I want to make and then I'll make another comment that I think in regard to when people speak of dispensaries being in proximity to schools or whatever, consumption does not happen in retail spaces. I know that because I go to them frequently, and that is not where I consume my products. So that just doesn't happen, and I feel like every time I hear that, it just makes me think I don't understand why. And for the record, I did check with the city to see if there were complaints that people were consuming in cars and parking lots, and that does not seem to be common either. It seems to be very isolated. I am also inclined to support this. I'm very impressed with the people that came and spoke and what you said about this business. I think it is time for us to have a queer-owned dispensary in the city. It's actually kind of a shock that we don't, given the history of Dallas Buyers Clubs, et cetera, that of the community activism and what you've been providing to the community. So again, I'm inclined to support this, and I'm happy to hear the presentation that you made tonight.
Commissioner Eisenberg.
Hi. I'd also like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. You were all wonderful speakers. It was wonderful to see 100% support for this. We don't always have 100% of the people who come out and speak. So that says a lot to the management and the owners and the future prospects for the business. I also think there's been a lot of vocalization over the past few years that Boys Town was moving away from the queer environment. So I think it's terrific that there's finally going to be a queer-owned cannabis store in the area. And I also think the corner is a great location. I'm at that location literally every day driving, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the mural is going to be. So I'm excited to hear what even the subject is, but I'm looking forward to the mural. But overall, there doesn't seem to be any negatives to this transfer, and I'm very supportive of the project. Thank you.
Commissioner Cockrell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to keep this short, otherwise I'm going to end up speaking it through tears, because I'm so impressed by everyone who came out from all over, from downtown LA to West Hollywood, to support this business that is going to be so great for our city, to our presenter who did an incredible job, and I actually, Commissioner Vulin beat me to it, but I was going to say to Ashley's for speaking for the first time, I remember my first time speaking and it was horrifying. So the fact that you came up here and did it because you believe in this business so much is so impressive, and I commend you for that so much. And it gets easier, I promise. So then eventually you sit up on the dais and... Exactly, you'll be here next time. Finally, you know, you promised that disco ball. So if we get that disco ball, then, you know, I'm inclined to support, as long as that disco ball's there. No, I guess that's a joke I should clarify. The disco ball doesn't have to be there. I would support regardless, but I am excited about the disco ball, and I'm very inclined to support.
Commissioner Barry?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at the impact, right, on the businesses around it, the culture, the community at large. And as I'm looking out here, I see 23 people in the audience. Since I've been on this commission, I haven't seen 23 people here. I think that I think that, I mean, when it came into this, I was kind of on, not sure where I stood, but for me, hearing everyone speak about it, it's hard for me not to support this project, because hearing the stories, hearing the impact, I think it's going to be a positive one. I don't see the downsides to this project. And I think it's going to be a net positive for the community.
Thank you. Any other?
I'm ready to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation.
Second.
Let me just quickly comment.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to thank the public for coming out and supporting this business. It does mean a lot to the commission. And I agree with one of the commenters, this is actually a tough location. Some of the businesses there before weren't able to be successful for a long time. So I'm looking forward to see this, this business thrive in that location. And I think the mural is actually a great idea. I actually surprised that nobody came up with that before. So that would be my comment. And do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation to transfer 100% ownership of the CAU 000011 and cannabis medical use CMU 000004.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Woolen and seconded by Commissioner Eisenberg. Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Cockrum?
Aye.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Woolen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ng?
Aye.
And Chair Yusufu?
Aye.
And the item is approved.
Congratulations and thank you. The next item is
Sorry,
item
one
number
second.
8.
I'm going to read the motion into the record, but the motion passes. Resolution BLC 24-0005 of the Business License Commission, just approved, memorializes the Commission's final decision on this matter. The decision is subject to an appeal by any person dissatisfied with the Commission's decision and may file with the City Clerk a notice of appeal to the City Council. The appellant or the appellant's legal representative must sign the notice of appeal and pay the fee at the time of filing the appeal. Appeals must be filed with the City Clerk's office within 15 days of the mailing date of the decision and pay the applicable fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. So I think they're done. Our next item is unfinished business, which we have none. And the item number 9 is new business. Hi,
Chair,
Chair and members of the commission, if you'd like to take a quick 5-minute break before this item, or would you like to? I'm seeing heads nod. And
Okay.
All right, let's have it.
I'll take 5 minutes.
We did. 5 minutes recess.
Okay.
So we'll continue.
You're getting dementia like me.
Draft amendment to the special event permit ordinance and process. Is there a staff report?
Good evening, Chair and members of the Business License Commission. The item before you is for your opportunity to review and provide input on the proposed draft amendments to the special event permit ordinance intended to enhance and clarify the permitting process for businesses. This item comes to you as a result of action that was taken by the City Council on June 24th, in which they provided direction to staff to return with a draft ordinance increasing the number of special events and activations allowed per year, and directing staff to change what activities are considered special events or activations. Attachment A to your staff report is a copy of that item that went to the City Council in June of this year. Staff has reviewed the special event needs of businesses and weighed them against existing data, trends, and history. Starting on page 2 is a series of staff recommendations. Some of the highlights include the draft amendment for changing where the special event permits are currently located. So this is changes to Title 19 of the city's municipal code, which is the zoning ordinance, would include repealing Chapter 19.55 regarding special event permits and relocating said chapter to Title 5, Business Licenses, Regulations, and Permits of the West Hollywood Municipal Code. So taking it out of the zoning code and putting it into Title 5, which is the business license section. Under Title 5, the proposed draft changes would include establishing a new Chapter 5.106 for special events that reflects, in general, the same text language from Chapter 19.55, special events. So it's basically a relocation. There are a series of text changes that are proposed, and they're listed there starting on page 2, including changes to purpose, applicability, and I want to call to your attention under permit required exempt activities. The following activities under the staff proposed amendment would not be required to obtain a special event permit. So restaurant buyouts that do not involve additional elements such as live entertainment, street closures, or sidewalk closures. In addition, some of the highlights include changing the number of permits that are allowed per year. This would be to increase the number of special event permits and activations for businesses per calendar year, currently from 12 to a maximum of 16 per calendar year. Also, under review authority, there would be changes in the text to change the approving authority to be the Director of Community Safety or designee for special event activations that are both classified as low impact or high impact, or those that are classified as major events. Under other changes, under Title 11, this is the streets, public places or infrastructure. This proposed change would include, under encroachment permits, Chapter 11.18, will streamline the special event application process by granting authorization to the Special Event Review Authority to include minor encroachment impacts as part of a special event, low or high impact permit or activation without the need to obtain a separate encroachment permit from the Public Works Department. So that consolidates the review and approval process for these types of permits. It's important to note that minor encroachments will include steps and repeats, stanchions, and/or red carpets that are placed in sidewalk areas. However, structures built anywhere in the public right-of-way that cause concern or require a building permit, encroachments requiring traffic control, partial or full street closures, or special event permits categorized as major will still follow the regular encroachment permit process that is administered through our Public Works Department. So that piece won't change. In addition, there will be changes under Title I, which is the general penalty provisions in our municipal code. The proposed draft changes to Chapter 1.08, general penalty provisions, will be made to include code violations of the newly established Chapter 5.106 into the city's administrative penalty procedures. I wanted to also mention, with regard to special event permits, the review and approval of those permit applications are done administratively. They're done by neighborhood and business safety staff. In the event that a permit application is denied, that process is handled administratively. It does not result or trigger an action by the Business License Commission to be brought before you. There are three specific benefits, as noted in your staff report, that all of these changes are intended to provide. The first one is it increases the number of permits and activations that a business can pursue during a calendar year. and it allows for increased creativity from our businesses for various events throughout the year, and also enhances economic development activities. The second benefit is it streamlines the application process for businesses, leading to better customer service. So it helps us process those permits quickly for our business community. And lastly, it clarifies that buyout activities are not considered special events or activations if other elements such as live entertainment, street closures, or sidewalk closures are not involved in that event. So this concludes my staff report, and be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Commissioner Eisenberg.
Do these exemptions include, for the restaurants, would they also include retail businesses?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
With all of these exceptions for special events, do retail businesses have that same option? If they're having entertainment or whatever within their location?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner Eisenberg. So Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the City of West Hollywood. And so no, the staff's proposal would not include retail establishments. In terms of any sort of activations, we would continue to process those types of permits just as we currently are. So none of the proposed draft amendments at this time provide for that.
Is there a reason for that retail isn't included?
And so no, we looked at some of the comments and information and feedback that we had received as a part of the City Council directive. And so that's not something that has been brought yet to staff's attention. I do understand that the Chamber of Commerce in West Hollywood did submit a public comment, a written public comment to this item. And so this is really the first step as a part of that outreach process that we're formalizing. And so, one of the steps that we'll be doing is taking all the input and feedback, of course, from the Business License Commission here. We'll also be conducting a presentation of this item to the Governmental Affairs Committee through the Chamber of Commerce. And so that'll give ample opportunity as well for businesses to bring forth any sort of recommendations that they would ask staff to consider, and that we would include as we then bring the item before the Planning Commission, because this would require a zone text amendment through the planning ordinance based off of what Vito had just presented regarding the repealing of the current chapter in the zoning ordinance. And then that will conclude for the City Council's consideration. And so it's not currently recommended as a part of staff's proposal at this time, but the commission is certainly welcome to provide any sort of feedback that we could add to future presentations and staff items.
If the staff looked at it, and would it become an amendment to what this recommendation this evening, or would it be a whole new submission, or would it just be approved by the Planning Commission?
I'm sorry, in regards to what specifically?
Including retail in this.
So if we were to add, you're saying retail, just similar to what we're doing with the restaurant buyout?
Yes.
So if that's something that staff felt after hearing from the input and feedback that we would include as a part of staff's recommendation, then we could do so at that time in terms of incorporating it.
Just
when we
administratively.
go to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Yes, that would be administrative. So
Okay.
nothing would necessitate, I want to be clear and just kind of reiterate what Vito had mentioned. These types of permits currently do not go before the Planning Commission for a hearing. They're performed and completed at the staff level, and so that is going to be maintained. And so this isn't going to necessitate a hearing coming before the Business License Commission. So that appeal process, that processing of those types of permits, all of that is going to remain the same. But what I'm hearing Commissioner Eisenberg ask is if staff would consider, or if the commission asked to include, right, the possibility of adding an additional exemption type of activity, and that being related to retail based off of the public comment that we received. And that's something that we would do one or two things. We would either add that, which we will, into any future staff reports that go before the Planning Commission and the City Council, And second to that, we would not only add it to the staff report, but we could potentially include it as a staff recommendation, right, to include that as a part of an ordinance change. But
Okay.
all that could be done at the same
I
time.
just have one more. Okay, Danny, what about DJs that the Chamber of Commerce referred to? Looking at DJs and smaller entertainment groups be exempted?
They would not. So that's not part of, none of what was included, I think, at the last part of the written public comment that I read is included as a part of this evening's draft language. So this is in the very early stages. So again, if the commission here wishes to make that recommendation as a majority of the body, for us to include that and take a look at that, then we can certainly do that at that time.
I think the inquiry is about defining the type of entertainment, you know, narrowing it down, whether it's a DJ, disco, band, classical quartet. You know, they would have different impacts.
I'm sorry, is that a question or a
No.
comment?
Well, is that possible to further define and break down live entertainment into categories?
Yeah, so I mean, all of the activations and the elements of the submittal is all dependent on the location of a business. So, you know, staff is always considering the proximity, right, of residential impacts to the commercial business itself and where somebody's choosing to activate. And so there's a variety of different things. And so not to kind of go down the rabbit hole is in regards to that, it's if the Business License Commission wishes to ask staff to consider those types of elements and allowing them to be exempt, then that's certainly the will. You can make that suggestion and recommendation, but that is not what staff is recommending in terms of language that's before you this evening. But again, this is the first step in the outreach process, right? So you have an opportunity to make that recommendation, and that's the intent of this item, is we're asking the Business License Commission to provide any sort of input or feedback regarding that. We're not asking you to approve any sort of language because that's not under the purview of the Business License Commission at this time. We're asking for input and feedback. So again, you can certainly make that, make those comments, make those statements, and staff will certainly notate that, right, and include it in any sort of future items.
Okay, I have a separate question. When all of these restaurants or whatever are requesting permits, can they request for the whole year at once? I mean, do they have to come back each time when they're requesting a permit? Or is it possible to say, we want to do 12 or 16 events this year and this is what they're going to be? Can they apply all at once? So they don't
cannot.
take time, they can't?
Yeah, they cannot. So right now, it does allow generally for up to 3 days, but the ordinance does allow at the director's level to approve up to 30 days in certain circumstances, but that would be the maximum amount of time. But generally speaking, you know, the bulk of the special event permits that are requested are for a very short duration period of time, because what that leads into now is businesses trying to circumvent having to go through a more formal process, which would require them to go through the Planning Commission to make a conditional use permit change, et cetera. And so, you know, these are intended in general and for short-term types of activities, 1, 2, up to 3 days. But in certain circumstances, there could be some consideration to expand that, but it would not exceed 30 days.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. Commissioner Cockrum.
Thank you, Chair. So sorry, I'm trying to bounce around all of this legal language, but so some of these are saying that some of the titles are saying they will include like either repealing Chapter 19.55 or making changes to. And when I'm looking at the actual chapter categorizes events as low impact, high impact, or major special event. So if Chapter 19.55 is repealed, does that mean the whole categorization of all special events change, and they're now categorized based on purpose, applicability, sorry, let me change the page, and exempt activities?
No, so all of those categories will remain the same. And so repealing, right, is just another word for deleting. So we would be deleting that chapter in the zoning ordinance in Title 19 where it's currently housed, but then we would be placing it now in the business license section of our West Hollywood Municipal Code. There are going to be some changes, and those changes is what you have in the staff report, right? There are a strike through. So whatever was there previously, we did a strike through and deleted that text in terms of what we'd be proposing. And then double underlined is any new text that we would be adding, right? And so, but the bulk of the special event permit ordinance currently in Title 19 will just be relocated to Title 5 and remain as is.
So then is it, is it fair to say that this will make it easier for businesses to have special events, in your opinion? Because I'm trying to read it as quickly as I can and understand it.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the relocation, that's really an internal staff recommendation in terms of, if there is a need to make any future changes, it is a lot quicker and more efficient to bring that before the Business License Commission and have that placed on the agenda for consideration, as opposed to having to place it on the agenda before the Planning Commission, just because of the amount and volume of items, right, that I'm sure the commission is aware of that goes before the Planning Commission. So just for efficiency purposes, that is the reason why staff is recommending the relocation of the chapter, but all of the rest of the changes as it relates to potentially adding that exemption activity for a restaurant buyout, streamlining minor encroachment impact type of requests, those are all intended to streamline the process, so yes.
Great, I love that. And to clarify, you said though that for this item, you were just asking the commission's opinion, right? We're not voting on anything, so we couldn't make a motion to say, you don't have to ask us, you can just go to city staff, and we're not allowed to say that.
Correct, yeah. The recommendation, the action on this item is really for input and feedback from the commission. It isn't to approve any of the changes. That is going to occur in terms of us proceeding, because we do have a city council directive for staff to look into that. But as a part of that outreach process, we thought it would be best to make sure that we came before the Business License Commission this evening, received any sort of input and feedback, like what Commissioner Eisberg had even mentioned as well, right? Incorporate that into any future staff reports. And like I said, we're going to be meeting with the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce as well in terms of getting input and feedback from them, and then going to the Planning Commission, which again will provide an opportunity for the public, for others to bring forth any additional input or feedback. And then going finally to the City Council for consideration of the ordinance.
Understood. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Vice Chair Ng.
Thank you, Chair. Director Rivas, actually, when you mentioned the 30 days, they have to be consecutive?
No, there needs to be a break. So
No.
we would give up to 30 days, and then let's just say that whatever activation they had been approved for, let's say that would need to cease. And then if they wanted to submit again, then they could submit again. So right now, businesses are allowed up to 12 special event permits.
Yes.
And separate to that, 12 special event activations per calendar year. What we're proposing is to increase each of those by 4, so that you would have 16 special event permits and 16 activations, but somebody would need to submit every weekend if they wanted to activate for every weekend, and then depending on which category, that would count towards that number.
Yeah, sorry, I think I probably worded that poorly. I think actually this sort of speaks to what I believe Commissioner Eisenberg was, the point she was making, is say for instance a business knows they want to do a special event, but it's a series of 4, and it's going to be once a month. I think basically what you're suggesting is that perhaps rather, like if it's a series, like an educational series or speed dating or whatever, and they know it's going to be once a month, rather than having to go back 4 times, if they know that the complete program is going to be 4 events once a month, it might seem better to streamline that so that if they're all within one like umbrella of whatever, yeah, of a particular special event, like a series, say, that is all for one purpose, that it might be actually better to allow them to special event the entire thing rather than having to come back 4 times. Does that make sense?
It does,
Okay.
yeah, and thank you for explaining that. And so that's the feedback and the input that we're looking for from the commission this evening, is for you all to make those comments, and then for staff, obviously, to make sure that we're notating that on any future staff reports.
Let me just expand on what Commissioner Eng said. My point was actually, let's say somebody has their calendar year planned out and they know what they want to do each month or each week. Why can't they just one time apply for all of those events? It might be separate permits, but at least they've presented to you what their plan is for the calendar year, rather than having somebody come back every couple of weeks, and it takes up staff time, it takes up their working hours. I mean, a lot of people do plan a full year in advance.
Yeah, understood. I mean, that's not currently the process now, but that is certainly something, as I mentioned, that can be considered and that staff would be incorporating into the staff reports. And so again, this is the type of input and feedback that we want to hear from the commission. So it sounds like we'll definitely notate that if there's consensus amongst the commission to include that as a consideration as this being pushed through the process.
Any other questions? Commissioner Woolen?
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry, I'm confused from the very beginning. So when Commissioner Eisenberg said if a retail place wanted to do something, this doesn't apply to them. So I thought this was for any business who would apply for a business event permit. Is it only for restaurants, or what is this for?
No. So so what Commissioner Eisenberg was asking is if retail would be included as a part of being exempt if they wanted to activate their space. And so what I was responding with is that that's not currently what's being proposed in the staff report, is to add retail spaces as an exemption from having to get a special event permit or a special event activation. But to answer your question, currently a retail space can submit for a special event permit, and whether that's categorized in one of the available categories currently, or if it's deemed to be an activation, let's say they want to have some food, they want to have some alcohol, right, and some beverages, and maybe they want to have a DJ, then a retail space can most certainly apply for a special event permit or activation, and then that'll be processed by staff and then categorized. So that's currently in place. That's not going to change. But what Commissioner Eisenberg was asking was if that can be added as an exemption from having to apply for an event or an activation. So not having to do that, and that's what we're suggesting would be the case for a restaurant buyout if it didn't have other elements and it was just simply somebody wanted to have their birthday at a restaurant and they wanted to shut down the restaurant and just have it just for their guests with no other elements. Then what we're proposing is that would be
I guess that's why I'm confused, because that's the only thing that's clear in here is if a restaurant wanted to do a buyout. What else is exempt? For example, I have a real estate office. Part of our model is we put on art shows every quarter and have a fundraiser, but I need to get a special permit for that and plan ahead and get that done. So it seemed like if there was events that were happening within a hotel or a restaurant that were part of what they do, you don't need a special, and actually, sorry, I don't know what the difference between an activation or a special event permit is. So maybe you could answer that too. But yeah, that's where I'm confused, is what's changing really,
Yeah, and so the reason why we only highlighted the exemption, the new exemption that we would be proposing, is if we weren't about to copy and paste the entire existing chapter, so there are other exemptions that are listed there. And we can pull those up. They're currently in the municipal code now. So there are other activities that are listed. And so that's going to remain the same, right? Whatever's there is there. We're just simply highlighting in the staff report what we're proposing to add to that list. If there is a business that's permitted by right to have certain types of activities as a part of their conditional use permit, or just as a part of them being permitted by right based off of their zoning designation and where their space is located, then they don't have to come to the city to request a special event permit. A special event permit is intended for any business to activate beyond what they're allowed to do as permitted in the West Hollywood Municipal Code.
So what's the difference between a special event and an activation?
So a special event permit has different categories, and that's really based off of the types of impacts, such as maybe a partial or full street closure, maybe somebody wants to shut down a portion of a sidewalk, maybe they do want to have live entertainment, and let's just use the example of a restaurant. So let's say a restaurant is purely a restaurant, does have a health permit and does have a license, right, to serve food and beverages, but does not have an entertainment business license. So they're not allowed to have any sort of performers. They're not allowed to have a DJ with audio, etc., right? Like our nightclub establishments. But let's say for one evening, they want to activate and do those types of things. That's not currently allowed under their conditional use permit. And so the special event permit would allow them to do that for that evening or for that weekend.
Okay. And then an activation is what?
And so an activation generally is something that is very low impact, something that maybe just requires a valet or a very simple type of encroachment. Maybe it is something that Vito had mentioned in the staff report, like somebody wants to place a step and repeat for pictures in front of, you know, their line out to create some attention, but everything else that they're wanting to do is permitted and is allowed under their conditional use permit or whatnot. And so that would be something that would be very low level and less of an impact. And again, it's hard to kind of give you know, absolutes because every application is different, right?
Yeah.
And so we would look at that, staff would look at that while they're processing it and deem that to be an activation. And that's something that we wanted to clarify as well, because as it's written, sometimes businesses will ask, well, you know, why am I having to pay for a permit fee and I'm not being categorized as an activation? And I just want to mention too that an activation is actually free of cost. It's absolutely free for a business to submit. And if they're categorized as an activation, they don't have to pay a permit fee, but staff still wants to have an opportunity to kind of look at that application, because a lot of times you'll have businesses that submit and they think when they read the code, oh, I'm an activation. But then as I mentioned, it's, well, I want to build a small stage and now I want to have some live entertainment. You know, oh yes, we want to reserve some meters in front of our business, have valet for that evening. So those are the types of impacts and things that are being considered that may trigger them being more elevated, but essentially it's just very low impact to the residential neighborhood nearby and other elements right out in the right of way.
Okay, so I mean, it seems like it's going to be a lot of this. The city council obviously had the intention to make it easier for businesses and to give them a little more freedom to do more things. When I, as a business owner, when I look at adding only 4 more for each of these, I say, okay, my year is 365 days. That's only 1% more of the days I can do something special for my business. It's not very impactful. I mean, I would say at least, I would recommend that it should be at least 24 of each. That to me is just 1 weekend a month. So if I wanted to do an activation or a special event once a month, that's 24 right there. So that's one thing that I would say to consider, and I don't know what the rest of the commissioners think about that, but I think 24 would be a little bit more impactful than 16. And what are my other questions? Yeah, I mean, because when you think of special times of the year like Pride, people may want to do something for a full week, or for Pride Month, have more things that are going on that are a little special. I don't know. I just think that businesses need as much help as they can get right now, and opening it up so they know, like, okay, as a restaurant now, you know, one weekend a month we can have a live entertainer performing on their banjo or whatever they want to do, to have that flexibility. I think 16 just seems like it's not enough. Okay.
Commissioner Cockrum.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I agree with Commissioner Vulan, and actually I want to go even further by just saying that this is asking us to make a motion on so many different things.
There's no motion requested.
Or I guess just asking for our approval on so many different things.
We're asking for your input and feedback. There's no action from the commission being requested tonight.
Or I guess asking on our feedback on so many different things, but it's near impossible to say, yes, I agree with all of this, or no, I don't agree with any of it. Because there are things like Commissioner, I mean, if we're just going down the list, so it says here would be the proposed changes. A special event permit allows short-term activities that do not meet the normal development or approved use standards of the applicable zoning, okay. Permit required, a special event permit is required for all short-term activities that do not meet the normal development or approved use standards, okay. And then the next one is restaurant buyouts, which he kind of mentioned, I'm sorry, Commissioner Vulan mentioned before, that do not involve additional elements, but that just mentions restaurants. So how can we give our, I forget what word you just mentioned, a consent
Feedback?
or approval or recommendation, but on all of these in one foul sweep instead of separating them?
So you're welcome, Commissioner Cochran, to you know, opine and provide comments on each of those sections or each of those proposals that are before you. And just to provide a little bit of context to Commissioner Volan, we did pull back data for the last 2.5 years. And we can tell you that even with the current maximum limitations of 12 permits and 12 activations, it is very slim to none that folks ever exceeded that. Most businesses do not.
Or asking for the permits. I'm sure there's things that I've done that maybe I should have asked and I didn't. Probably like an art show here somewhere down the line. I forgot to. I don't know. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people probably haven't. But if they know that, like, okay, I'm not going to run out of them by doing it, that I have enough and I can kind of plan the year out and have a bigger amount, then maybe it is something where, like, okay, 1 week in a month we do have a piano player come in to Gracias Madre and play piano and plan that for the year and have a little bit more freedom. But if it's just smaller amounts, it's kind of, I don't know.
So could the commission have time to, because we got this yesterday. So could the commission have time to reply to each one?
Yeah, it's my understanding the commission's been provided with the staff report since Friday. I don't know about it being provided since yesterday, but this is the opportunity. And as I mentioned, there's going to be other opportunities for the commission and members of the public to provide their comments. And, you know, taking Commissioner Volan's comment in terms of, you know, having somebody plan out their entire calendar year, and the example that you used, allowing somebody to kind of activate, you know, once per month. Right now, that current number is afforded to somebody to be able to do that. The proposal to increase it to 16 by 4 really stemmed from that's originally the amount that was approved at the time. Folks were allowed to have up to 4 permits per calendar year, and then that increased to 12. And then later on, it increased and included activations. And so we're increasing it by 4 because that's just the number that was established originally. But again, just please keep in mind that the intent of a special event permit isn't to circumvent somebody wanting to do some sort of use on a more permanent basis. And there's other businesses that are having to go through that process, having to have a hearing, paying the fees, and going through the planning commission process that's afforded to somebody. And so everybody has an opportunity to do that, but this is a short-term, and I want to stress again, a short-term temporary activation and use that's afforded to a business. It's not intended, again, for folks to be able to activate every single weekend for 12 months out of the year, because if that's the case, then they should apply and go through the permanent process, which is afforded to them here in West Hollywood and quite frankly, in every other city throughout the state of California, in terms of just having a more permanent zoning process that goes before the planning commission. So increasing it to 24, if it, we heard that comment, we heard obviously staff's recommendation of 16, that'll all get included and bundled in any future staff reports, but we just wanted to make mention of that to the commission as well.
That is an important differentiation. Thank you for explaining that.
So before we continue the providing the feedback, I just wanted to ask the staff. So this draft amendment of the event permit ordinance, is it going to be, the input is going to be also from Planning Commission?
Is it going to go before Planning Commission? Yes, it will.
And any other body or any other commission or any other board?
It will not. So currently, right now, the special event permit chapter is housed in the zoning ordinance, which falls under the purview of the planning commission. So it will have to go before the planning commission for their recommendation and for their approval. But because staff is recommending transferring, essentially, right, that chapter from the zoning ordinance to the business license section or the business ordinance section, that is why we're bringing it before you all this evening.
So if that transfer happens, so then some of the business that was coming in front of the Planning Commission now will be directed to the Business License Commission.
So Chair, no business goes before the Planning Commission, and no business will be coming before the Business License Commission. This process is not requiring any sort of hearing, like an extended hours.
No,
like
I understand about the amendment part, but there was a remark that this is going to relieve some of the items that come in front of the Planning Commission. Basically, will lighten their workload by moving it to the different chapter. And in what event something may come up in the future, once this ordinance is adopted, what kind of event or hearing may come up in front of the Business License Commission, which currently or normally would come in front of the Planning Commission as it stands right now?
So the only time that anything would come before the Planning Commission or the Business License Commission is if we're making any future changes to our municipal code. So municipal code amendments. So that what I had mentioned earlier on is that by transferring this chapter, right, from Title 19 to Title 5, that will help streamline any future potential changes that are made to the municipal code in this specific chapter. But other than that, this would not come before you all, and it would certainly not be coming before the Planning Commission now as the process stands.
I still don't think you're clear. I think what a lot of us are probably wondering is there some type of hearing that comes in front of Planning Commission now for an event like Pride? Do they have to approve something? No. So when you say to alleviate workload from Planning Commission, what did you mean by transferring it to Business License?
Yeah, so the answer to your first question is no. And the second question is it streamlines staff's process administratively from having to place any sort of municipal code amendments on an agenda before a commission. Right now, because given the volume of agenda items that go before the Planning Commission, that can take several months. Whereas by transferring this over to the Business License Commission, if we wanted to streamline a city council directive, if we wanted to make staff changes and recommendations, then we could pivot and we could add that more than likely within the next month to 2 months versus like a 6 month. So that is the benefit of transferring the chapter over.
But like what type of a hearing would it be? Like what would we be listening to? Like, can you give an example?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a hearing. It would be an item that's
Okay.
simply on the agenda like it is this evening. So when you go to Planning Commission, there's different state law requirements. When you're making a municipal code change to the zoning ordinance, now you have to post a public hearing notice. Now you have to follow different steps. When you transfer it over to the business license section of our municipal code, we wouldn't have to do that. So if it's purely a legislative change, again, we wouldn't have to fulfill that public noticing requirement per state law for a zoning change, a zoning code change. We would just place it on the agenda like it is this evening with proposed changes, and then we could go straight to the city council, right? And then we would place that on as a legislative item.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Eisenberg?
Your mic's off.
Yeah, we didn't hear your mic.
Okay, so it's administrative. But I have a question.
The change to chapters
Well,
is
what's going to happen is
administrative.
it's all administrative. But I have a question specifically, going back to retail for a minute. I want to know, as an example, you know my street. At the bottom of the street is the Old Tower Records, now Supreme. They have often, over the years, have had pop-up events. Some of them have been low impact, all inside the store, maybe a step and repeat or a valet. Some of them have been bigger events with stages. How would this affect them, and what would those two different situations be? One of their low impact events and one of their high ones, and that is a retail location.
So currently, as what's reflected in the staff report right now, the only thing that would impact them, if this ended up getting approved as is by the council, is it would increase their number of activations from 12 to 16, both on the permit category and the event activation category.
But that's if we were to include retail as a recommendation in this ordinance, no?
So what you just provided an example on would simply just increase it to 16 in both of the categories. What you asked me earlier was if we could include retail as an exemption, which is not something that we're proposing to do. So what you're asking is to essentially bypass having to submit an application to us for consideration or review. That is what I heard earlier from you, Commissioner Eisenberg.
I was referring to that, but yeah, no, I don't think we want to do that with our store at the bottom of our street.
So then that would be that. Then you would not want to recommend
the retail
adding that as an exemption, because essentially by adding it to exemption is you're saying that that type of activity does not have to file any sort of application. So that is what we are, however, proposing for a restaurant that's purely wanting to just do a buyout. As I used the example earlier, somebody wants to have a birthday party, they want to buy out a restaurant, right, and shut it down for that evening and just have their guests, their family, etc., come to their birthday there. If they're not doing anything else, we would reflect that they would be exempt from having to submit any sort of application to Vito's office.
All right. So, any other questions? Okay, Commissioner Cockrum.
Thank you. I'm sorry, and I know you feel like you've probably said this 1,000 times already, but so just to clarify, if a different person did want to rent out a restaurant or whatever to celebrate their birthday, then they would be exempt from the buyout limits and they could do it every weekend if they wanted to. Otherwise, if they're just hosting their own events, then they're limited to the required whatever the 16 or whatever the new number is.
Correct. If the exemption stands and it that goes through the process.
Of course, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barry.
I just have one question. Going back to what we were saying about submitting events on an annual basis, would there be any reason for, would there be any hardship on the staff if they did that? Is there any reason for that input, for us not to recommend that, or for us to recommend it quarterly or another time period?
For example, if somebody submits an application and they say, hey, I want to plan out my calendar, I want to have the exact same event, right, with all the exact same elements for a couple of weekends, is that what you're...
Well, no. What I'm thinking more is like if I'm a business owner in West Hollywood, if there's a corporate one, there's a mom and pop one, and I'm doing my budget for the year. I know all the events I'm going to have for the year, and we're redrafting this, and we want to submit all the events for the year. Is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to do that all at once?
I mean, from a staff processing perspective, that would certainly streamline the process. But then we kind of lead into what I was mentioning. If we would just count that as, and what I'm hearing from the commission at times saying is that one application for multiple dates throughout the year would just count as like one permit, right? Is that what you're suggesting? Like one permit, I submit one time, and I have 4 different events that I'm including in that. Are you saying to just kind of add that as one permit, or no, just, hey, I'm submitting once, it's the same activation, so go ahead and count that as 4 permits, but we're just doing it once, right? Is that,
yes, that's what I'm saying.
No, actually, that would be more efficient for staff, quite frankly.
And would it be fair, I mean, would it be fair to everyone to do that? Like, because I know there would be some that couldn't.
Yeah, it would be, yeah, I mean, that's something that we'd certainly have to take a look at. It's difficult to say because sometimes if somebody wants to request a certain activation, then what ends up happening is sometimes they do more than what they reflected on the application, but that would be addressed through the code enforcement process now. So I think it would just be a matter, if that was something that was considered and approved, that you'd have to weigh out maybe the potential unintended consequences and having staff return, right, and saying, well, we're receiving a lot of complaints, right, about this process. But right now, from an administrative perspective, it streamlines the process.
Thank you.
Chair, can I ask?
Vice Chair Ying.
Yeah, actually, to speak to what Commissioner Barry said, I think I understand that streamlining the process is something we absolutely want to do. I think in terms of permit fees, I'm not necessarily thinking that we should advocate for it to be one fee, because I think there's a few things that could happen. People could say, oh yeah, it's a series and it's the same thing, and they're not actually being honest about that. So I think that maybe requires a little bit more distinction or investigation, but I think absolutely the streamlining the process benefits both sides. I think that, but then a business knows, hey, we already know that we can plan this thing that's going to be 4 parts, or that we can do this for 3 months in a row. So yeah, that part I think absolutely. The fee thing I think should be examined a little more.
Commissioner Cochran.
Thank you, Chair. That's why I was saying earlier, kind of, because I agree with Commissioner Eng that if the goal of this is, to allow more special events, but also to make sure that people don't take advantage of that, we're going to have a huge problem, because someone will just say, I'm having a weekly speed dating thing, or I'm having a weekly guitar player, or I'm having so it's really hard to make a recommendation, or again, whatever the word is, on all of these in one foul sweep. There's so many different varying things.
But I think you're providing a great feedback right now, just making that comment, and that's certainly something that the staff will, articulate in future staff reports. Is maybe there needs to be, more of a research and analyze, the possibilities of this. So can definitely include that.
So I have a few comments and a couple of questions. As someone who does apply for various usage permits, I just want to, my understanding, the permit process is not that cumbersome. And if the business had applied for a special event use permit, all they have to do is just update that application, and usually it's probably a couple of pages application, maybe insurance, maybe some other thing. But it doesn't, I would imagine it doesn't burden business too much to apply, even if they have to do it 16 times. So I would recommend keeping it separate from event to event. That's why it's called special event. And if the business is doing something in line with their use, if it's a like regular restaurant activity or nightclub activity, then there's no permit, so there's no burden that way either. But that's why it is called special, because it has to be special every time. And of course, there's a fee involved. So aside from this being moved from one chapter to another for administrative purposes, and the number of instances being increased from 12 to 16, those parts are understandable. The exemption part, where it says restaurant buyouts that do not involve additional elements such as live entertainment and so on, are exempt. What if the restaurant is, well, first of all, what is defined as a restaurant? Would a cafe be considered a restaurant? Would a lounge that serves just drinks would be considered a restaurant? So is there a definition on that? That would be one of my questions. Another question is, instead of live entertainment, for example, if they are using amplified music, would that be still exempt? That's another question. And what if it's a business? In the city, we have a lot of hotels, and very often hotels have a restaurant on the main ground, on a lobby level, and then they have a open area on the rooftop. If they apply for exemption, would their rooftop be covered on under that restaurant, since it's the same business, or not? So those are my questions.
Got it. So yeah, so a cafe would be considered a restaurant, so to speak. It depends, but for the most part, I mean, if they're just serving beverages and coffee, but most of them don't, they also serve pastries. And so that necessitates them having to get a public eating license from the health department as well as from us. And so when you're looking at those two elements, I mean, if they're having on-site consumption, if it's a to-go, so, you know, all of those things are taken into account in terms of what that is. I mean, I don't have the restaurant definition in front of me, but it is reflected in our West Hollywood Municipal Code under our zoning ordinance. If it's a lounge that just purely serves alcoholic beverages and they're not serving any sort of food, we wouldn't categorize that as a lounge. We would categorize that as a nightclub. And so maybe they're having dancing, right? They're just serving alcohol. They would have a different type of alcohol beverage control license versus somebody that has to serve food. And so all of those things would be looked at and would probably more than likely fall into different categories. But I know there is a lounge, there is that language that's in the zoning ordinance. I just don't have that before me right now. But in terms of your other question of like a hotel, right, having a top, like you mentioned, maybe a rooftop, and then having like another lobby restaurant. So they would have to be specific in terms of their location. We would need to know exactly, you know, where they're doing their buyout. So typically on those site plans, they're not restaurants. They're not all included under one. It's different spaces that they have. I mean, looking at the one hotel, you have a different operator that's on the rooftop versus what they have at, I don't want to say the ground level. I know it's near their parking kind of valet operations, but those are two separate spaces. And so somebody wanted to do a buyout, they would need to inform the city in terms of which area on the rooftop, or are you wanting the lobby area? And then that would be taken into consideration. And they wouldn't have to apply for an exemption. If this language is approved, then a restaurant buyout, if they're not doing any sort of other amplification of audio or music or live entertainment, as you mentioned, and they're purely just doing a buyout, they're already approved to serve food and beverages there. They would be allowed to do that without having to come to the city at all.
So right now, a hotel that wants to have a party on the rooftop, in the current process, they do need to apply for special permit, right? To have amplified music, for example, or DJ on the rooftop? They have to apply for a special event permit for that?
It depends. You know, some locations already have their entertainment business license and they're approved for a DJ with ambient music. So it all depends.
If they don't, like
If they don't and they want to do a buyout and they want to have a DJ, then yes, they should come in and submit a special event application to us currently. And what this is proposing is if they're not wanting to do any sort of amplification and they just want to do the buyout, then they wouldn't need to.
And currently they have to do it even if they're not using the amplified music or DJ, or they still have to do that right now as it stands, right?
Currently, a restaurant doing a buyout would submit for a special event application, and then we would look at the impacts and the types of elements that are being proposed. If they just simply wanted to do a buyout, then staff more than likely, based on that circumstance, would deem that as an activation. And that would be free of cost, but it would count towards the one of 12 activations that a restaurant is allowed. But they would need to submit something to us right now.
So my feedback would be on specifically that, because that's one of the issues with the, as you know, like there are several hotels that are in strictly residential parts of the city, and usually that becomes an issue where a hotel has an event with amplified music on the rooftop, and I believe those are also have a limitation. They can only go towards certain hour. So if any of that is being changed, I would then maybe specifically make that separate, maybe paragraph about that.
Yeah, and so what we're proposing here is that, like, if somebody is proposing live music, then that would not be exempt, right? So we said
Or amplified music without live entertainers, but amplified music is still pretty allowed.
Yeah, amplified music as well would be something. And we just listed a couple of examples. We didn't list everything, but we just wanted to provide some examples for consideration. But yeah, the intent of this is just, if it's purely just a restaurant buyout with no amplified music, right, or other types of live music elements or encroachments, then that's something, encroachments that are high impact, not minor impact, then that's something that wouldn't need to come before the Neighborhood and Business Safety Division. And that was something that was specifically requested by City Council for us to take a look at. The restaurant buyouts was listed as an example in the staff item that is attachment A. And that was notated in there based off of feedback from businesses that were saying, hey, I shouldn't have to apply, right, and go through the application process if all I'm doing is just simply shutting down the restaurant for a certain evening for a private event, if that makes sense, without any of the other elements.
Thank you. And so this would be the only time we're providing the input, or would there be another time, or is this the only time when?
This is the only time. We're on a pretty fast track to get this before council, and we're expediting this to be placed on the Planning Commission agenda as well. So we plan on going to the Chamber of Commerce Governmental Affairs Committee, which will give businesses the opportunity to provide additional input and feedback. We're going to be taking all the comments made from the commission this evening as well, and any written public comments that have been received, and then we'll incorporate that, go to the Planning Commission, and then end up at the City Council.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Cochran?
Thank you, Chair. So I think the Chair brought up a lot of really good and really hard questions that you did a great job of answering, but they're super difficult. But so I guess to try to wrap this up, since everyone seems to be on their phones, how do you want us to end? I mean, if we're not asking for a motion, then what are you asking for?
Just exactly what you all have been providing, like all of the comments, input. If there's additional things that you'd like staff to include for future consideration or to be included in the staff report, because essentially what we're going to doing is we'll provide bullet points and summarize all the comments that were made this evening. So that's all that we're looking for, is for any additional input or feedback.
We just said so much. Would it be easier for us to just go down the line and say, I like number one, I like number two, I hate number three? Or what would be better for you?
I
staff.
mean,
I think
you
they
certainly
received already what they were looking for. You already received what you were looking for, right? So
Yeah, I mean, we certainly got what we need, and we would look back at the video and summarize the comments to the best of our
Oh my
ability.
gosh,
So.
I feel so bad for that person who has to do that job.
Well, that will be us. So yeah, I will be included in that. So
that feels very
just
bad,
know. Yeah.
very badly for you then.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Essentially then what we're just waiting for right now is for no more commissioner to have any other comment, and then the meeting is adjourned?
Well, this item is done. I think there's a couple more
we have,
items on the agenda.
We have
but
another agenda items.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. So unless anyone has any other questions to the staff, then we're going to move to the item number 10, items from staff.
Good
And
evening,
that's-
Chair, members of the Business License Commission. Just have a few updates for you. First and foremost, I would like to introduce to you our new Code Enforcement Supervisor, Albert Torres, who is, I'm going to have Albert stand up and give a speech, but no, you're going to have to stand over here so everybody can see you. And we just want to present Albert to all of you. Albert just started on August 26th, I think was the first day. So he's on his third week. And we're super happy to have him on board. And you will be seeing Albert, I'm sure, in the future in front of all of you with items related to the Business License Commission. So welcome, Albert, and we wanted to have an opportunity to introduce him to you here tonight in front of the commission.
Thank you, Vito. It's an honor to be here. Thank you all.
Nice to meet you, Albert.
Welcome, Albert.
The next item that I wanted to just
Excuse me,
share,
Vito?
please mark your calendar.
Vito,
I'm sorry?
Is this Eugene's job?
Mr. Torres did replace Eugene's, when Eugene left, that position we recruited for, and Albert came out the top candidate and was selected for the position.
Okay, very nice to meet you, Albert. Look forward
So
to
congratulations
working with you.
again, Albert.
Congratulations.
The commission's anxiously awaiting all the items he's going to be bringing in front of the commission, right? As I was mentioning, Tuesday, October 1st is our next commission meeting. Please note that on your calendar. In anticipation of that meeting on October 1st, we believe we'll have an extended hour business license for the Beaches Tropicana location. And so we'll be working with our team to prepare that item. And we're also, as we sit here, we're also anticipating the preparations for this year's Halloween event. And we'll have an update probably for you on October 1st with some additional information on that. So we look forward to another safe and successful event, and also working with our business community on processing their SCPs and permits for this year's event. So it really ties into the conversation we just had. So that's all the items that I have. I don't know if there are any other items from staff, from Jessica. I think that's it. Okay, well, my updates are short and sweet.
All right. So next item is item 11, public comment. Do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers at this time.
Thank you. So this time is set aside for, so we don't have any speakers. So the next item is then item number 12, items from commissioners. Do any commissioners have any items to share? Commissioner Woolen?
Yeah, just briefly. Assembly Bill 1775 passed the legislature. It's now in front of Newsom's desk. That's the bill that would allow cannabis lounges to serve non-cannabis related food and drink. Mm-hmm. So most likely our governor will sign that, and that'll become law soon. And when that does, I guess, I'm not sure the process that businesses will have to go through to serve food or drinks, but that's just, I just wanted to give a heads up to everyone that that's probably something coming down the line, and a lot of our lounges will want to participate in that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Eisenberg?
I would just like to congratulate Commissioner Busarov, Chair Chair Busarov on a wonderful first meeting that he held, and think he did a very good job.
Thank you.
And thank you, and to the Vice Chair as well. Vice Chair, congratulations on your first meeting. Thank you.
Commissioner Barry?
I'd just like to congratulate Supervisor Torres and welcome him to West Hollywood.
Any other? Commissioner Cochran?
Yeah, I'll just make it short and sweet. Welcome to West Hollywood. Thank you, city staff, for putting up with all of our insolence. That's not the word I mean. For all of our questions and debate and everything when you have families to go home to and you have debates you want to watch and you have things you want to do and you have a life outside of here, and it means the world to all of us, to everyone in West Hollywood. You saw all the people here tonight. You know how much it matters, so don't ever forget that what you do is so vitally important. And thank you.
Vice Chair Ng? No? All right. Well, thank you, staff, for your work, and you made it quite easy for us. Thank you.
Made it very easy for us.
All right, so our next item is adjournment. So West Hollywood Business License Commission will adjourn to its next adjourned meeting, which will be on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. at West Hollywood Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers, 625 North San Vicente Boulevard, West Hollywood, California, 90069. And our meeting is adjourned.
You did it!
We are here at Ciclavia in West Hollywood for the Meet the Hollywoods event, making sure our streets are safer for everyone. There's no cars, and it is so important to be working with our partners in Los Angeles and across our borders, because when our streets are safe for all of us, we all live healthier and better lives.
You know, whether you drive or bike or walk, it's always good to be able to come out to Ciclavia to be with people who just want to be out and have fun. So let's have some fun.
Today I'm most excited to be riding my bike with all my friends, stopping by some of my favorite businesses, and just seeing how happy everyone